Well, good morning. I am happy to be here, and we're continuing the series of If Only I. And I want to know if these words sounded familiar to you. I, state your name here. Take you, state your spouse's name here. To be your wedded wife, husband. To have and to hold. From this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as we both shall live. Have you ever had the honor of saying those words at some time in your life? What a day that was when everybody got together to hear you say those words, the couple saying those words to one another. And we know that that day happened because there are probably pictures of it. You know, if you got married in the last 10 years, you probably have about 10,000 photos from that day. Everybody had their cell phones. You even paid a photographer to be there on top of that. You had a camera. You probably had a camera on, on the top of your head, and, it was well covered. But for those of us who got married in, say, the 10 to 30-year range, what we have is a gigantic glossy book that we paid about $800 for that there's only one of in the world. And so if there's ever a fire or anything, we're doomed. Those are the last of those photos. And that's the first thing those couples are running in the fire to get is that photo books. That's all they have. Now, if you're beyond that, like 30 years plus, you probably got that one sort of black and white photo, of you maybe cutting a cake or something. Or if you do have a Super 8mm film that looks like Zapruder shot it, that's probably all you have from that time. But still, that doesn't mean that the promise doesn't stick any more or any less. On that day, you made a commitment. And on that day also, you changed. Because what you said is, I no longer want to be identified as myself. That as people look at me, that I will be identified as a couple. Me and another person, the two of us, the two becoming one. And you also said, through better, through worse, richer, poorer, sickness, health. It covers just about everything that can go right and can go wrong in a relationship. So the question is, how's that promise going? So as we look at this week's If Only I, one of the strong responses we got in many different forms was, if only I had a better marriage. And I have good news for you. You can have a better marriage. In fact, you can have an awesome marriage. Here's the thing, it takes a lot of work. It's going to take some work from yourself. And it's all going to depend on how much you want to change in order for that to happen. Now, many of you have checked out already. They said, oh, great. I don't have to listen to this. I may be 10 years old sitting out there. Or I may be in high school. And I'm thinking, well, I don't have to listen to this. Many of us who are married right now wish we had heard a sermon and paid attention very early on. So even though you may be underage to get married, listen up. There are some good truths in here that you need to remember. Some of you are single and say, well, I'm not married, I don't need to listen. Well, I'm going to try to tailor some of this so that what you're hearing, you can apply to that future relationship. And some of you are saying, well, I don't plan on ever getting married. I've heard that before. And God can do anything, and it's always possible. So there are some things in here that may be happening, and you'll be glad that you listen. Now, when we look at these if-onlys, I'm going to look at a number of if-onlys to get us to our main if-only. And they're going to cover a number of different time periods, the past, the present, and the future. But let's look at the past. And here's the if-only. As people look past, they said, if only I had waited or listened to others before I got married. Now, when I'm counseling people, when people are coming in for either premarital counseling or counseling because their relationship has struggled, the one thing I like to ask them is, how long have you known each other? If they say to me, well, we just met last week, I'm going trouble. If they're saying, it's just like a few months, I'm a little cautious. Are we riding that wave of emotion and fairy tale love and all that kind of stuff? Or is this a real serious commitment that we're going to make? The other question I ask is, what do others think in your family or friends about this relationship? That's very important, because a lot of times that they can see things from their perspective that you can't see when you're in the midst of the storm of love and emotion. And they're on the outside going, well, we kind of see this. And so it's good to listen to others. Because, I mean, look what's happening when you're in the midst of a relationship, the amount of pressure that's going on, that pressure to get married, or all that pressure to have this wonderful wedding day. You're seeing all these other people on Facebook posting their relationship photos and their engagement photos and their wedding photos and their honeymoon photos, and they're getting all this attention. And you're like, I'm missing out on it. Some of you, it may be age. You're kind of like going, uh-oh. I got to hurry. I got to make a choice. And I'll make the best choice that I have. And sometimes it's not always the best reason. Some of you are saying, you know what? This person's kind of the best I can find. I've seen a lot, and this one's the best. And that's not really a good reason either. So we wish that when we were choosing a mate, it would happen like it happened in the Bible. And the scenario in Genesis is this. Abraham wanted his son, Isaac, to have a spouse, have a wife. And so what he said was, I don't want him to marry the people that I'm living around. I mean, these locals here are not very good, and they don't share the values of what I have. So I want to get somebody from back in my hometown, in the area where my family lives. And so he takes Isaac's servant, and he sends him on a mission. And Isaac's servant goes back to the homeland of where Abraham was from. And it picks up here in Genesis 24:12, and it says this. He goes outside of a kind of the watering hole where everybody would come to water their camels and to get water, the little springs area. And he kneels down here in verse 12, and he prays, Lord, God of my master Abraham, this is the servant praying, make me successful today and show kindness to my master Abraham. See, I'm standing beside this spring, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she says, drink, and I will water your camels too. Let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Before he had finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder, and she was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The woman was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever slept with her. And she went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. Wow, if it could be that easy. Lord, send the right mate. Oh, here she is. Oh. And Isaac here is kind of exemplifying the first Match.com, really, isn't it? Isn't that kind of the way it works? Where you hire this third party to sort of set up the relationship. I mean, that's what's happening today. And I'm seeing a lot of relationships come out of these websites. I mean, this website would be like camelsprings.com, right? Where, it's this watering hole, sounds like a bar almost. I'm not recommending that's where you find a spouse, but it kind of has all those elements that we would see today. But people are going to these third parties, these Match.coms and everything, to sort of say, okay, I'm going to type in all my likes and dislikes. I'm going to, my strengths and my weaknesses and my favorite color and my religious affiliation and my favorite college football team. And somehow, the computer puts it all together and says, here's what we think is the right person. Right? So we're in that sort of mode of thinking, let's go outside of ourselves to find that third party. Why is that helpful in some way? Well, in some ways, what it does is it sort of removes emotion from all of it. And it uses the mind. It uses the other sort of characteristics besides what you're feeling at the time. And that's really the problem with a lot of relationships. It's just about feeling. And let's be honest, when you start dating someone, you lose your mind. I mean, you really kind of go insane for a little bit of a while. You're not thinking straight. It's all, everything they do is wonderful and such a great person and everything. And you miss some things in the midst of all of it. where other people can see them. I mean, think about it. I mean, there are some signs very early on, like the temper outburst and certain fixation on things and stuff that you find cute, but everyone else is warning you, saying, no, stay away. And so one of the things you have to do, and here's three things you should do. First of all, look for those early signs. Watch for clear-cut signs and ask other people, what do you think of this person? Do you think this is a problem? Involve other people in the choosing of the right relationship. The second thing is establish some non-negotiables and say, you know what? These are the things right now that I'm thinking about, not in the midst of a relationship, but outside of the relationship. These are the things that are non-negotiable. The person needs to be like these 5 things. And if they're not these 5 things, I'm not even going to consider a second date if they don't meet up to those. And this is what always happens. Some people say, oh, let's see. First of all, he's got to be a Christian, right? And I don't know, he can't smoke. And he's got to work out, right? And they'll have those sort of things. But then all of a sudden they meet this fat, lazy, satanic smoker, couch potato guy, right? And then they go, what? They go, well, you know what? He's really nice. Well, where was nice on the list? It wasn't on the list, but all of a sudden, who cares about the non-negotiables? I found someone who's nice and who can tolerate me. It's like, no, that's not the reason. So establish the non-negotiables now and don't budge on them. The third thing is keep the physical out of the relationship. That is so important. This is why God said that it's very clear to not have sex before marriage, because here's what happens. When you have sex before marriage, now the physical becomes what's important, and you begin to say, well, I don't know, it feels good that we're together. Well, yeah, you're having sex together, but that doesn't mean you're compatible. It just means you're kind of good in bed together. That's all it means. And guess what? When you're married, you're not in bed together all the time. You have to deal with each other with issues and parenting things and job situations and what is God doing in my life. And the sex is a part of it. It's good, but it's not the only thing. So if it's involved very early in the relationship, your whole view of that person becomes very clouded. And the number of failed relationships I see after marriage, it's very common to say to them, did you have sex before you get married? And they said, yes, we did. And you know what? We didn't see some things very clearly. So that's why God has said to keep the physical out. Enjoy the physical after you've made the commitment, but do not have it there beforehand so that you can make the right choice. So if you are not married, listen, don't rush things. Be deliberate in your choices. Ask others how to help, and most of all, focus on God and asking him who is the right person for yourself. If you're married, you're saying, well, it's kind of too late, right? Well, there may have been some warning signs, clearly there beforehand, but you did say yes, you did make a promise. Now what do? That gets to the second if only. This if only is if only I were a better husband or wife. And this is really dealing with the present situation of where you're at now. Now, there's a number of different ways I could talk about this, but we do a marriage seminar in a class called Art of Marriage. And we're going to have another one coming up on September 11th and September 12th. It's a Friday and a Saturday. We've had a number of classes go through it. Wednesday night classes go through it also. And the response from everyone is how awesome this material is. I want to show you one clip. Now, that clip goes on for about 8 minutes, but I think it does such a great job of where many relationships are today, and it's a way to help you to sort of understand what I'm going to say next and sets it up. So keep your eyes on the screen, and let's take a look at it. You did not marry the perfect person. Oh, wait, this breaking news special report just came in. You are not perfect either. But what do we try to do in a relationship? All along, we're trying to make this other person the perfect person for me. Here's why you got married. I don't know if you want to admit this, but I think most will in reflection. You got married to meet your needs. You were looking for someone in order to make you feel like a better person. Here's why you should have gotten married. You should have gotten married because you want to invite another person into your life to serve him or her. Those are two completely different things. Why is there marriage? Why did God create marriage? We go all the way back to Genesis 2. And when it all started, God said, I'm going to take a part of the man. I'm going to remove him, the part on his side, and make a, as he said, suitable helper for him. A helper. Someone who would come alongside of him, from the side, come alongside of him and her to help each other. And it says that as a result of this, the two will become one flesh. Now, you have two imperfect parts. Is it going to make a perfect relationship? No, it's not. The only perfection that occurs is when each person realizes why they're in this relationship, and that is to serve the other. And God brings an individual into your life to fill in the gaps in your life, those places that you're weak, and they bring along strengths. That's why you get attracted to them, because they have things you're like, wow, I really wish I had that in my life. Hey, if I marry that person, those strengths will come into my life. And you have to recognize your weaknesses and accept your spouse's strengths. But that person is really in your life to make you a less selfish person. Because left on your own, you will naturally only do what you want to do for yourself. Even God looked at man by himself, and it's not good for man to be alone. Because he knows how selfish man could be all by himself. So the day you got married, you said this, it's the end of me and it's the beginning of us. And then what happens the rest of the relationship? You try to elevate the me and bring down the us. You want to advance the me all throughout it, and this is where the conflict occurs. Well, what's God's will for marriage? Why have this thing? You got married to love and serve the other person. It's not the other way around. You got married so that you could show what godly love is all about. God is a God of serving, of sacrificing. He loves unconditionally, and he says, I'll bring somebody into your life and show that kind of love to that other person. It is a challenge, but that's what makes a perfect relationship. Two people sacrificing for each other, even in their own wants and desires, sacrificing them for the good of the other. So if you want a better marriage and you want to be a better husband, you want to be a better wife, this is where it begins. Start by serving your spouse more. Be there for him or her. Think about him or her first before you think about yourself. Now, do they deserve it? Because that's probably the first thing going in your head. Well, they don't deserve to have my attention. It's not about that. Think about how God looks at us. Do we deserve his love? No, we don't deserve his love. We're sinful. We fail. But God says, I still consider them first, and I still serve them first. So it's not about deserving. It's about your duty. In a Christian relationship, it's about your obligation to God to show godly love in your relationship. Which takes us to our last if only. And this one is now looking at from here on. What is the future? And the question is here, if only I love my spouse more. How do I do that? What do I need to do? I want to give you 3 things right now to do that. And remember, this is a choice. It's not a feeling. If you say, well, I don't feel like doing these things, then you're missing the point. It's not about the emotion. It's about the commitment. The first one is, number 1, start loving and start respecting. This is what I see all the time. When there's a problem in the relationship, the man always disengages. He removes himself. He retreats to the cave. He doesn't want to come out and acknowledge what's going on in the relationship. You saw that beautifully in that video. He is trying to avoid. What do the women do? They try to overengage. I'm going to make more suggestions of what he needs to do. I'm going to leave more books out that he needs to read. I'm going to go tell other people what it is that my husband needs to do. It happens over and over again. And so here's 2 different things. Man disengaging, woman overengaging. So men, what you need to do is listen. Listen to your wife. If she's saying some things to you, listen to them. Consider them. You know what? Sometimes wives have some pretty good ideas, and you should consider them. Instead of just turning it off and saying, oh, they're just trying to change me. But I would then also say to the woman, respect your husband by not telling him what to do all the time. So there's a balance there between the two. Men, listen. Women, instead of trying to fix, here's your thing, pray. God can get to your husband a lot better than you can. And God will bring other men into his life to speak to him. Or he may even be here today because I'm giving this message right now. Whatever you've been praying for, it's happening right now. So do you believe in God that he can help to change your husband? So don't over-engage. Instead, just pray. You know, in Ephesians 5, that's that last verse in Ephesians 5. However, each one of you must also love his wife as he loves himself. Men, look at all the ways you love yourself and the things that you do for yourself. Now turn all of those things outward and begin to love your wife that way. And the wife must respect her husband. Those are really the keys. This is the way men and women were made. And that verse is just a beautiful antidote to fix a lot of relationships. So start loving and start respecting. Men, love your wife more. If you have to ask me how to do that, oh my. Just do things that make her feel special. Make her think that you're actually thinking about her at times when you're not around. Maybe you can do that through a text or a Facebook post. Surprise her, not just on your anniversary, by saying how much you love your wife. You know, all those kind of things just make the woman feel secure and special. So do that. And then wives, submit to your husband. Just give him some respect at times. You know, allow him to sort of find himself. I mean, it's tough being a man in this world today. So at times we have to fail in order to succeed. And we have to learn from our mistakes. I can give you a whole history of mistakes I made in my life that I learned from to make me better. And I did that on my own. Not I turned to my wife and said, tell me everything I need to do. It just doesn't work that way. So respect him at those times. The second thing is to stop fighting. Stop fighting. It drives me crazy. I'm talking to this couple, and we're going through, I don't know, so like usually a marriage counseling, and they're saying, well, you know, the last time this happened, it was 11 o'clock. I remember it was 11 o'clock. And what does the other one go? No, it was 10 o'clock. No, I know it was 11 o'clock because I remember I looked at my watch and it was 11 o'clock. It was 10 o'clock because we had just had breakfast. And then this whole thing over whether it's 10 or 11 o'clock, and it's like, really? This is the fight. We're going to fight over 10 or 11 o'clock? But it's just the basic issue of what's happening in the relationship is just somebody wants to be right. And I'm going to keep going till I'm right. Well, look, you know what? In situations like this, if you're absolutely convinced it's 11 o'clock, fine. Why fight over it? It's 10, it's 11, doesn't matter. Just get to the next point. The next point is what was important. But people, and especially couples, these arguments come together because they're like, I've got to be right. I've got to be on top. And the truth is you can't win the fight. You can keep having these little skirmishes, and maybe you're right, but over time, if you keep sort of fighting and fighting, someone gets beat down, and they just surrender, and they just give up, and then everybody loses. So really think about some of these fights that are going on and saying, why is it important that I be right? Why is it important that I stand my ground here? If anything that I've learned in 27 years of marriage, just like, I just need to fight less and just sort of give up and just go, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's move on to the next thing. It doesn't matter about the trivial matters. Let's get to the more serious things that are happening. But it always shows that when the fighting is going on, you're trying to reestablish the you, right, instead of the us. In the us, there should be no fighting. But when there's one me and one me, that's when all the fights occur. Remember this, your spouse is not the enemy. The enemy, as we saw from this video, is ourselves, is our sinful nature, is Satan trying to destroy our relationships. Selfishness is the enemy, not your spouse. And then the last thing is start believing. Start believing. Start believing that this is the person that God has sent to you. That this is the best person for you at this time in your life. that this person that God has sent to you is really going to challenge your selfishness and really going to see how sacrificial you can be to show God's love in a relationship. Remember, God made marriage to show the world. This is what true love is all about. He wanted people to look at husbands and wives in a Christian relationship to say, oh, that's what a relationship with Jesus Christ is all about. Remember also in Ephesians 5, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing and water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. So what should happen out of a relationship is that we become better as a couple. Not that we become two separate people, stained and blemished because of the fighting and the selfishness that occurs, but that we come together and make something more beautiful, more radiant than ever before. And the world sees these relationships and says there must be a God, because they are showing what true love is all about. I want to close with prayer as our response time. And I want to pray for all the different people at different relationships that are here, that are watching right now. And if you're single, I'm going to pray for you during this time. If you're dating or engaged, I'm going to pray for you also. And if you are here with someone that you're dating or engaged to, I want you to take their hand while we're praying. If you're married, I want you to take the hand of your spouse also. And we're going to pray for all the relationships as part of our response time.